What's going on, everybody? Trev Wilson here. Welcome back to the Bourbon Wrench. Today we got another video covering 4 bourbons that you can get on the shelf for under $30. This is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1, click the little box up here, check the link in the description. Today though, we're going to be covering 4 bottles under 30, around 90 proof. Part 1, we covered 4 bottles that were around 94 proof. There are a lot of bottles out there that you can get for under $30. There's a wide range, tons of bottles, tons of good bottles. So we kind of broke it up into 2 parts. We could probably even do 3, 4, 5 parts of this. There are so many bottles out there that are really good. So part 2 though, covering 4 bottles, 90 proof, all under 30 bucks. So the bottles that we're gonna be covering today are Maker's Mark, Buffalo Trace, Woodford Reserve, and Russell's Reserve 10-year. Now again, all of these are around $30, some of them a little bit closer to 20, some of them right at 30, maybe $1 or $2 more, really depending on your market, but we're in that neighborhood. All of these are around 90 proof. The Woodford is the exception. It comes in at 90.4, so again, Woodford, they just like to do their own thing. They want to be a little bit different than everybody else. Whatever works for you, Woodford. Like part 1, I'm not going to be doing this blind. Again, it's really not that blind when I know the 4 bottles that we're drinking. Instead, we're just going to go through each of them and side by side them as we go. And at the end, I'll give a loose ranking of what my favorite is. But really, we're just going to be covering these, talking about them, drinking them, seeing how they compare to each other, seeing how they're different. And again, at the end, I will give a loose ranking based on my palate. So essentially, we're just covering 4 of the best bottles I think you can get for around $30. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. First up, Maker's Mark. You guys know me, and if you watch the channel at all, I rave about Maker's Mark. Absolutely friggin' love it. I love all of their stuff, to include the very entry-level Maker's Mark product, 90 proof, 45% alcohol. Let's get into it. Glass A, Maker's Mark. So this is the lone weeder out of the lot. So you're not getting a whole lot of spiciness. Again, kind of like all Maker's Mark products that I get, tons of candy sweetness. We're talking melted caramel, melted vanilla, just overflowing sweet sugars. Almost like a cherryness coming through too. And almost like a bread-like characteristic coming through, which I always get on weeders, is this doughy type thing, but tons of candy sweetness. On the palate, very soft. Again, being a weeder, having no rye spice in it, it drinks really easy. I think this is a really good option for people getting into bourbon, or if you're making a transition from bourbon and Coke or something, you're mixing it, you don't want anything too aggressive, this is a perfect one to go to. There's tons of sweetness. Again, this is like melted candy. It's like you take the little caramel squares, you melt it down, right here. Finish, pretty lacking though. No hug, no finish, it just kind of disappears. I feel like that is a very weak spot that I get in the base Maker's product. It's not super mouth coating, unlike their other products, like the Maker's Cask Strength and stuff, where it's non-chill filtered, super mouth coating. The Maker's 46, which again was in the previous video, that one super mouth coating. This one is very light on the palate. Overall though, I think this is a really good bottle, an entry bottle especially. If you're trying to get your feet wet into what bourbon is, you're making a transition in, or if you just want something easy to sip on, this is not aggressive at all, okay? Just a lot of sweetness, and that's about it, okay? All right, moving on. Glass B is gonna be Buffalo Trace, 90 proof. This is the bottle that got me into bourbon. This was the bottle, my gateway bottle. It hooked me ever since. Downward spiral. It was just a huge snowball effect, and I attribute it to this bottle. So let's get into it. Buffalo Trace, Glass B. Nice levels of spiciness. You're getting that Buffalo Trace cherry note. Very sweet. Again, very, very approachable. Nothing's off-putting about this. I think it's just a perfect gateway into the world of bourbon. On the palate. You know, honestly, I always talk about the Buffalo Trace cherry note that I get in all their other products. They don't really do well for me in these blinds. But there's something about the Buffalo Trace, the base bottle, those are just flavors. It brings me back to a time when I was in my bourbon infancy. I knew nothing, and then I tried that bottle, and it just woke me up. I was like, this is it. This is delicious. I want more of this. You get tons of sweetness. That cherry note is very, very prominent. Decent levels of spiciness. Again, we're moving away. The Makers was the only wheated product, so we're getting nice levels of spiciness on this. Nothing over the top though. I think it focuses on the sweetness. That's why I think this one's so good, especially as a gateway bourbon. Very sweet. As much as I hate to say it, you know, the Makers fanboy in me wants Makers to win everything. I think I'm liking the Buffalo Trace a little bit better. I'm liking that spiciness you're getting, the cherry note, which I typically dog in some of my blinds. You know, the Buffalo Trace, the base bottle cherryness. I love it. It's nice. All right, let's just keep moving on. I'm kind of comparing them as I go. Next bottle, Russell's Reserve 10-year. This comes in 90 proof, 45% alcohol, 10 friggin' years old, and you're getting it for around $30. I paid a little bit more. At my store, it's around just over $30, but I've seen it below 30, so I, threw it in the list. It's close enough, and it's 10 years old, which, you typically don't see 10-year-old products on the shelf for that cheap. Eagle Rare is another bottle that would be, I feel like it's direct competition, but you can't get that everywhere. A lot of places you just don't see it. Other places it's all over. Around here, not so much. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this one in its spot. Russell's 10-year. Now, we're moving up even more in the spicy department. So this Russell's 10-year, tons and tons of cinnamon. It's like, I hate saying baking spices because bourbon, it all has baking spices. They all are caramel and vanillas, but this one smells like you're in a bakery or something. And they're making Christmas cookies, Christmas something. Tons of vanilla on this too. Extra amounts of oakiness from that being 10 years old, but a cinnamon note, a strong, strong cinnamon note. Absolutely wonderful. On the palate, you're getting elevated oak. Lots and lots of toasted oak, but vanilla. There's like vanilla oak. It's not so much oak where it starts getting bitter. You're getting a lot more of those wood sugars. So it's sweet and oaky. This is really good. This is almost a dessert cookie in a glass. This is a bottle, you do not need to sleep on this. This is really good, especially for its price. It's a home run. I think so far, it's probably my favorite of the three. We've just progressively gotten a little better, in my opinion, as we go. So, Makers, still really good, but in just a different wheelhouse, okay? Very easy sipper, nothing aggressive. Then the Buffalo Trace added some spiciness, added a little bit more cherry, and then now we're in a dessert, cinnamon, oaky, so we're getting much more complex flavors out of this Russell's 10-year. I think this is a bargain. This is definitely a steal. All right, and that leaves us last bottle, Woodford Reserve, 90.4 proof. Again, Woodford, they just like making their own numbers because they are unique. Now, Woodford, to me, is like the quintessential bourbon, okay? If someone doesn't know what bourbon is, like if you had to say, what does bourbon taste like? Just pick me one bottle and that's what bourbon tastes like. It's Woodford. Let's get into it. Let's see how it compares to these other under $30 bottles. Glass D, Woodford. Yeah, it's very, very just classic bourbon. I don't think it's doing anything extraordinary, but it's not doing anything bad. I think it's just all around just good. I think this is the perfect baseline bourbon. It's not too far in any one direction. It's not too nutty. It's not too grainy. It's not too spicy. It's not too much of anything. It's just all of it in a ball. On the palate, almost like a milk chocolatiness coming off of it, which is really good. I think this is a bottle that people either get into bourbon with, or it's a bottle they pass up, and then as their journey progresses, they never go back. They kind of just pass it by, they forget about it, they're on to bigger and better, more complex things. But again, for $30, this is a really good, easy sipping bourbon. It's all the notes that you like. There's nothing off-putting. There's nothing too far in any one direction. I think if you just wanted an everyday sipper that's not challenging you and it just tastes simply good, this is it. I mean, it is. It's very, very basic in terms of the most standard tasting bourbon pretty much ever. But it does have this little nice milk chocolatey thing that's going on the palate that I typically don't get on other bourbons, so it might be one of my favorites out of the lot here. If I had to do a loose ranking though, and again, this is loose, this is just kind of what I'm drinking, what I'm thinking, drinking them side by side. I think my favorite out of the lot would be Russell's 10. It's surprisingly complex for the price. It's 10 years old, so you're getting a lot more barrel influence. You're getting more of those tannins, the wood sugars. You're getting elevated amounts of vanilla, so it's still super sweet, but you're getting oakiness. You're getting a lot of cinnamon spice, so it's a lot of things going on. Again, back to 90 proof, so it's very easy, it's very approachable, especially if you're getting into bourbon and you want to know what some older whiskeys taste like without breaking the bank. Seriously, do not look any further. You'll find this on the shelf. Eagle Rare might be a little harder for you to find. This one should be everywhere, so give it a shot. Do not sleep on this bottle. My second place, that's kind of up in the air. Buffalo Trace is always gonna have a spot in my heart, okay? Just as the bourbon that hooked me. But I think I might have to give second place to Woodford. I think this is just seriously quintessential bourbon, and I want to drink more of it. This is something that I could just sit back, not think about, just drink a bourbon. It tastes really good. It doesn't cost a lot, and nothing's gonna challenge me. Nothing's gonna be off-putting to me. It's crushable. This is just a crushable bottle. And then third, I would give Buffalo Trace. Again, I love the sweetness. I do love the cherry note that I get on the regular Buffalo Trace. I think it's really good, very sweet, easy, approachable. You're getting some of the spiciness that you're not really getting on the Makers, and in a twist. I know you guys are expecting me to say Maker's Mark was number one, but out of the lot, I would put it last. Not that it's bad by any means. I think Maker's is a perfect segue for people getting into bourbon. If you want to try a wheated product, for sure, this is much easier for you to find than something like a Weller product. And I know I've talked to a lot of people and they say Maker's was my gateway. Maker's is what got me hooked, so definitely give it a try. It's cheap enough. It's still really good. Tons of sweetness. Candy sweetness. I absolutely love it. Again, this is something you can just sip on and not really think about it. Nothing's gonna challenge you. Good introduction to wheated bourbon, to cheap bourbon, to bourbon in general. So again, I think all of these, as a matter of fact, are bottles you need to try. Just like in my part one, I think all of them are really good. So check that out. Check these bottles out if you haven't tried them. If you're getting into this and you want to try something else, here's 4. I don't think you'd go wrong with any of these 4. They are all so different too, though. So remember that going in. They are all different. They're going to take you down different paths and teach you something different, okay? If any of these got you into bourbon, leave a comment below. Let me know which one it is. Which one of these 4 is your favorite? Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. Be notified when I upload more videos, when I go live. Check out all the links in the description. Plenty of ways for you to support me more if you so choose to do so. We got discount codes over at Into the AM. Get discounted clothes. We got a Patreon page. We're gonna do extra behind the scenes videos. We do extra live streams. Best of all, we have exclusive merch for Patreon members. Glasses, coasters, coins, all kinds of stuff. So check that out. When you go over to the Patreon page, it will explain everything. That being said, guys, here's another 4 $30 bourbons that you can get on the shelf. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, I'm Trev Wilson. I will see you in the next video.